There you go. Perfect. Good. Nice to see you, Tom. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. Very good. It's good to see you again. I
Yeah,
think we have a lot of participants today who have joined us to hear this session. And thanks again. Thank you for taking time to join this webinar. This is a very interesting topic, and it's a topic I'm sure a lot of people in the staffing world want to understand, in terms of compensation. How do I compensate my sales folks? How do I compensate, recruiters? It's a big question in everyone's mind, and we really thank you for taking time to share, your expertise. Before I get started, I just want to give a little background to everyone on how these webinars work. These are 1 hour sessions. Usually we spend 45 minutes discussing between me and Tom. We have an option here for Q&A. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put your questions in there. We try to make sure we cover all the questions in the last 15 minutes. Also, these sessions are recorded, so we will make sure these sessions are available for you as a recording as well. So we'll make sure we share it with you at the end of the session. So maybe to get started, I'll just give a little background about myself, and then I'll let Tom introduce himself, and then we'll take it from there. A little background about myself. My name is Venkat Kulli. I'm the CEO here at Oorwin. A background about Oorwin. I'm sure some of you already know who we are, but we are an AI-powered recruiting platform that's used by most consulting and staffing companies, especially if companies are global. You have presence in US, India, and multiple countries. You can use this as a single platform to manage your business. Right? So you can manage your sales teams, your recruiting teams, as well as HR teams. That's a little background about myself and who we are. Again, I'm going to move it on, hand it over to Tom, and let him introduce himself, and then we'll take it forward from there. Tom.
great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Venkat. Tom Kosnick. I've been servicing the industry for 26 years now. And I got started in the industry by putting together peer roundtables, the President's Roundtable program. So I've been doing that. I'm happy to say we've got a number of clients that have been with us in that program for more than 20 years. And my larger clients asked me to get CFO roundtables started and sales leaders roundtables started and whatnot. So the information from today's webinar, some best practices with compensation. I just want to let everybody know that this is real stuff from the field that I have learned from some of my best clients in the industry that make things happen and whatnot. So real glad to be here. We do organizational development, growth strategy work, a lot of financial analysis, comp plan redesign, and whatnot. So this topic is near and dear to me, and glad to be here with you all. Can I've got a presentation. Can I share my screen and get the
Sure,
presentation?
Tom. Sure. Please go ahead.
I'm going to put this in presentation mode so all can hear or all can see. There we go. Great. All right. Staffing compensation best practices for guaranteed success. There's 4 parts to this presentation. I'm going to talk about trends, economic models, specifically some things with sales reps and recruiters, and then some final tips and thoughts. So on to trends that I'm seeing. So 26 years in the industry, I've seen it. I've seen a lot. And so over the past 20 years, I've been watching this unfold. And the story is that expenses are increasing. Margins, for the most part, have been staying the same, depending upon your business model. And net income has been decreasing. So, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, it was pretty easy to see an IT staffing firm do 12% net income and whatnot. But nowadays, a lot of these guys are struggling to do 5% net income. Increased the expenses that are increasing. Salaries, compensation are a big part of it. As you all know on the phone here, your number one expense is your internal employee expense. And healthcare, many people here have experienced 25% or so. Another thing that I have watched over the last 20 years is more buyers are continuing to implement VMS systems. And also VMS systems continue to move into the middle market. So regarding compensation, so knowing how to comp for VMS is, if that's the business that you want to pursue, is a key thing to think about. This is another interesting trend that we're seeing, and that is that the chief marketing officer is actually becoming more critical to the organization than the vice president of sales or the vice president of operations. And when you think about it, the VP of marketing, they touch so many things on a candidate side in terms of attracting candidates and some of the candidate engagement, new tools and digital marketing and mobile. Same thing on the sales side of things. So we're seeing this the CMO is now, as these new things emerge, the work tasks change, and for salespeople and recruiters, and hence the comp has to change as well. So, which is another trend that I'm seeing here in the industry, and that is that traditionally the sales rep did the account management work, and I'm finding more companies move the account management work to senior level recruiters. The traditional sales rep that goes out, gets accounts, maintains accounts, they're being transitioned out of the organization, and the staffing function is really being developed into a full pure hunter business development model. So again, it's just these are trends that will affect your compensation. Lastly, with the younger workers, we're seeing that younger workers coming out of college, they're looking for high salaries, and we're seeing a lot less of them attracted to jobs where 50% or more of their income is derived from commissions. So again, boy, what do you do here? Do you shave your commissions down or whatnot? It's all these external trends really affect our business model, and the business model affects the economic model, and the economic model affects what we do with our comp. So onto the economic model. I'm just going to show you a few of these. The economic model. So every organization has an economic model to it, and when it comes to compensation, we have to know what our model is. And I'm going to just show you 3 models up here. This is a VMS model. I think the TechServe Alliance, I believe the TechServe Alliance says that 18% of margins are typically what a VMS model can get. Generally, we see about half of the gross profit production allocated back to the unit, and then the other half the gross profit allocated back to corporate. Now, this is why this is so important. I'm going to show you another one here, is that if I'm helping somebody redo a comp plan, the first thing I want to look at is their P&L. And the first thing I want to know is what kind of net income are we trying to achieve? Because a lot of companies, because of those increased expenses, because the comp plans are out of whack, because the turnover is too high, what I find is that they have subpar net income numbers. And so, hey, what's the ideal net income that we're trying to obtain in this business unit? Once I know that, and once I know what my margin is, then I can look at business unit expenses and whatnot, and allocate appropriately. So in this model here, VMS, 18% gross margin, we're allocating 2% of the revenue to the sales function. Sales function being the sales reps, their salaries, base comp, all that good stuff. I need to know, you need to know what that number is, so that $600,000 in this business model doesn't turn to be 750 or $1 million to, which, by the way, I've seen all the time. It's a big mistake that companies make. So best practice is, number one, know what your economic model is. Here is one more traditional, 25%. Again, I think if you're non-VMS, you should be somewhere at about 28%. But anyway, I took 25% as this business model. And here again, now maybe, the VMS model may be, hey, a couple of sales reps, and then I've got a 6-person recruiting team. Well, this is a little bit different. You've got 2 recruiters to 1 salesperson, direct accounts, direct activity, on and on and on. So again, I'm allocating 5% of the revenue instead of 2%, and with recruiters 4%. Instead of whatever another business model. But I know, again, 30 million in revenue. Is that for business development? 5, 6? If it's 6, then I take that 1.5 million, I divide it by 6, and then at least I've got a financial target to know what to shoot for. The A more simple model, some people on the call might just be a one office operation. And so this might be a one office operation doing 25%. Again, they might be looking at dropping 7% to the bottom line. So in this example here, gross profits at 25%, same thing, sales, maybe 5%, recruiting. And in a way, maybe this is a $10 million branch. But the same thing, is this 2 sales reps? Is that 3 sales reps? How many sales reps is that to get to 10 million? But I know the number here in my business model in order to achieve my net income number. And so this is it's really, really important to, know the economic model on the front end. So when clients of ours engage us to do comp work, hey, the first thing I want to look at is the P&L. I want to look at their existing comp plan, but I want to see, gosh, are you hitting your net income numbers? Are these expenses? So, developing, tweaking, evaluating your compensation plan, in terms of a methodology. First, foremost, what's the economic model? What's the business model? VMS, non-VMS, middle market, non-middle, enterprise only, on and on and on. A pure business development model, or maybe a cross between some business development, pure BDMs, and some account managers. But understanding, what the economic model is and the percentage of gross margin that you're going to allocate to those different those functions. And then locking down on a salary range. This is another thing a lot of clients of mine, especially the older ones, struggle with. I talked to somebody here in Chicago. They're still looking for salespeople in an IT staffing business with a $50K base salary, and I'm like, good. I can't help you. Good luck. But locking down on the salaries, establishing minimum, mid-range, and maximum gross profit production levels. So the organization's got to know an A player is going to be doing $600,000 of gross profit. They're going to be doing $6 million or $6.5 million in revenue. They're going to be at a 28% gross margin. But with these plans, you've got to lock down the minimum, the mid-range, and the maximum, because you want to get it. You want A players. So you can't get somebody past the minimum. Not a good thing. Deciding on the key performance driving behaviors that equal success. So your compensation plan, another key takeaway here, your compensation plan has got to be geared towards helping drive the key performance behaviors, and then building out a comp plan using different sales levers. As many comp plans as I've seen in the industry, I've seen hundreds of them. I'm afraid to say that most of them are boring. They put you to sleep. If you had insomnia, just read through my clients' comp plans. It's like a base salary and a percentage of gross profit, period. It's like, oh my gosh, if your comp plan can't have like 4 or 5 different sales levers to motivate behavior, you are missing out. So multiple sales levers, we'll get into more of that. And then here's the other thing, test it out. Test out the plan at these different levels. The reason we test it out is that, I have had, and I do have salespeople that are making more than $1 million a year. Like, why would anybody do that, right? That's a comp plan where the top end of it is too rich. They didn't model it out. So anyway, some tips in terms of a methodology if you're going to tweak your plan. Or whatever your plan afterwards. And then the thing we all love to do is make changes with your employees with the comp plan. That's an art in itself. That's a classic organizational development. So okay, we talked about trends. We talked about the economic model. I'm sure you'll have questions about all that good stuff. So let's look at sales and recruiting comp best practice. Just starting with the numbers. So sales reps, this is a general rule of thumb, that 20% of a rep's personal gross profit production is allocated back to their package. So that is their base salary, their benefits, their comp, their salary, their comp, their bonuses, their taxes, benefits, and all that. Another way to look at it is 5% of their revenue production. So when we think about, and again, if I'm evaluating a company's comp plan, I'll look at the existing reps and recruiters, and I'll look at what they're making, and oh wow, it's just like you find out that this number is, 35 or 40, or like the reps personal production is the company is allocating 35 or 40 or 50% of their gross profit production. I just heard of a story where somebody put a plan together where they were getting 50% of the rep's gross profit back to the employee. And I'm just like, well, that you're not making any money in that business, that's for sure. And then gross margin here, gross profit, revenues minus the cost of sales, which is the temporaries, wages, taxes, insurances, and whatnot. So on the recruiting side, same thing. This has been far more of a challenge, especially over the last, minus COVID. Well, I guess for most of the companies on the call, I would assume they're in the professional staffing field. So the professional staffing firms, we're like IT, engineering, accounting, and finance, we're at a fully deployed workforce. So the folks that are unemployed right now, that's mainly in the low-end manufacturing and in the hospitality sector and whatnot. So probably not many people on the call here are in those categories. So even through COVID, this number here, again, this is a general rule that 15% of a recruiter's gross profit production is allocated back to them. That's the base, commissions, all that other good stuff. Many of my clients are finding it a challenge to keep it at 15. It's the salaries have been increasing. They haven't changed the comp. Healthcare expenses have been increasing. Another way to look at it is 4%. Some of these also align with those economic models. And by the way, considering the economic model, like I know that we're going to talk a little bit about some of the technologies and whatnot, but like if you get a new, okay, so you sign on with Oorwin and a new ATS system, and they're integrated into a candidate engagement tool and all that stuff. Like all of those investments in your business, technically, those investments should increase the gross profit production per internal employee. And if they're not, then something's not wrong. Then like, so that's another thing to be thinking about in your economic models, that if you make an investment in a technology, that technology should have a positive effect on your salespersons and recruiters. And so, and again, when it comes to comp, how many folks are comping people on fully utilizing the database? I hear this all the time. And your database is really probably your strongest for your production folks. Your ATS system is your strongest technology tool for them to utilize, yet they're only utilizing 20% of it. Just crazy. I mean, so have some kind of comp lever in there that encourages the utilization of the IT tools. But anyway, so if we combine these two, so now this is a target. I'm saying this is, everything is smooth sailing, the valley is a straight, the stream is nice and clear. There's, no pollution in the water. I can drink right from the stream. 35% of the gross profit production then, of the company's gross profit, is allocated to the sales reps and the recruiters, base commissions, taxes, benefits, all that good stuff. In reality, it's probably closer to 40 most of the times that I see for the professional staffing firms. And a lot of times the reason why it's closer to 40 is because, we lost 2 reps, we brought 3 on, we're ramping them up. Well, there's a ramp up cost. That's another tool, management tool to use, in terms of understanding. And so, so this includes the salaries, the commissions, the bonus, the benefits, and the taxes. Again, hey, if I'm managing a business unit, a staffing business unit, I want to know what these expenses are. The other thing is that if I'm trying to grow my business and my people are running at full speed, and this, if I look on my P&L, and this is at 35% of my gross profit production, my people are at full speed. I mean, I'm the chance I'm going to add additional headcount or additional gross profit. Hey, it's time for me to go out and maybe hire a new pod if my goal is to grow the business. So, you know, these are again, you know, I'm hope I'm drilling down the point that we need to, you know, we need to know these numbers in order to effectively grow. So compensation. This actually is a typo here. Levers. So we talked about this is a best practice. So think about compensation levers. So you've got the salary, you have percentage of gross profit production on their commission. You have potentially an activity bonus, and I'm gonna walk through all of these. Quarterly, a potential quarterly bonus, an annual bonus. Oh, and a president's club. Where do I sign up?
Yes.
Imagine, huh? I put this is art, guys and gals. Like if you put a plan, I mean, look at this. What A-level aggressive salesperson is going to be attracted to a plan that's just a salary and the percentage of gross profit of but hey, I've got all these other ways in which the company rewards me to succeed. Where do I sign up? This is a competitive. We are running sales organizations, guys. So like this is a competitive advantage. So these are the key takeaway here is use multiple levers when you're building out. So on the salary levels, you know, first geographically based, we've got my clients, you know, ask us to help them find personnel and all that stuff. So I've partnered with a couple of recruiters. I don't do any recruiting myself. We just kind of hand them off. Gosh almighty, we've got clients in the Bay Area that they're at 125K base salaries for reps. To find good sales reps, they got to pay 125K base salary. Oh boy, think about that in terms of the commission and figuring it out, like the economic model and gross margins and spreads and all that stuff. So there's a lot of sources that you can look at. American Staffing Association, you got Staffing Industry Analysis, you got the TechServe Alliance, American Compensation Association, SHRM, the Society of Human Resource, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I probably get asked every week, Tom, you know, we're looking for a rep in Birmingham, Alabama. You know, what do you think is the base salary range down there? Consultants, staffing industry, recruiters, local competitors. If you're interviewing other sales reps and recruiters and whatnot, they usually can tell. Now the thing with the salary levels is that inflexibility is not a good thing. I mean, you've got to be flexible here. You know, think about my friends over here in Chicago with the 50K base. I mean, that poor guy is never going to find a secretary's make more than that in Chicago. So it's like you've got to be open, flexible to the different geographies and whatnot. And you know, and you got on a compensation perspective, you got to think that through. And so anyway, the percentage of gross profit commission. So I'm just going to show you some different models that I've seen. These are just examples. So like these percentages and numbers are not set in stone. Again, you think back to that one slide that I had. What's the economic model? What are the behaviors? What's the spread? What's the minimum, the mid-range, the maximum? So I'm just as a disclaimer. So this basically, and by the way, paying on gross profit production, that is a lag indicator, right? So gross profit is a lag indicator. So another best practice is to your compensation plan to include rewarding both on leg and lead indicators. And let me tell you, they're both very important. So this is just simple, hey, we're trying to get this may, I guess if you're in IT staffing, this is not unrealistic. Somebody doing potentially a million. I've got clients where they've got sales reps that are doing they're doing $100,000 or so a month. So, but anyway, this just is it's a tiered. So first 30,000, 4%, second 30,000, 6%, 8, next 30,000, 8, anything over 90, 10%. So obviously what you're rewarding is to get them into the upper buckets. So this may be 10, first $10,000, 2%, 10 to 20, 6%, 20 to 30, 8%, like whatever. Again, the trick, like in understanding what these percentages are here, is based on that economic model, how much money. So, I mean, just think back now. Oh, I'm in a non-VMS setting. I've got to pay an 80K base. At $2.5 million in revenue, I can allocate $125,000. So, 80K, another 15,000 for benefits and taxes. I'm at 95. So I got $30,000 to play with in terms of the commission structure. I know I ran through that real quick. Trust me, you guys are not the first ones who said, what, explain it again, Tom? But anyway, but that's how I figured. I got 30 grand in that example. So then I go from there. Hey, you want an activity bonus? 10 grand? Okay, now I've got 20 grand to play with. And then it's like $20,000 I want. So when they're hit full speed, I want to have used all that $20,000. And so that's where these percentages come up with. So anyway, you got to like, I was always good with numbers when I was a kid. You got to like numbers. So my clients tend to be wonderful salespeople that started these companies, and they're not all that. So this is another model here that this is a matrix. This actually is a very effective model. So this is the percentage of gross. So based on your target, right? So again, just an example. So let's say I'm shooting for 25 to 29% gross margin. I'm training my reps. So you're rewarding the increase in gross profit production. You're rewarding the rep for getting business at higher gross margin levels. You're also rewarding the rep for the number of consultants they have out on billing. So depending upon, where they fall, 11 to 20, 20 to, they jump in these different categories. Beautiful plan here. This came from a big client of mine. Well, I won't mention the name. He's retired, sold his business. So, but anyway, and then obviously from the management perspective, your solid B players are going to be sitting at 20 to 30 consultants on billing with 20 to 29% gross margin. So, my target is at 9%. So then at the high end, what if I have somebody that's blown it out of the water, 32% gross margins and, 52 people on billing? You kind of map it all out and all that stuff. This is another one that just rewards on the not the total dollar. Well, it rewards on it encourages them to get higher gross margins from when they're out there negotiating rates and all that stuff. Pretty simple. I kind of see this less and less, but anyway, it's a way. So gross profit production. So we talked about salaries. We talked about gross profit production, a little bit about how to figure that out. So activities, boy, do I get pushback on this from sales managers, a lot. So the idea here is that you want to reward on performance lead indicators, performance driving indicators. So I'm talking about two things here real quick. So you got, and I just threw these out here. So, and you can do this on the recruiting side as well. So this is like maybe a sales executive, 50 connects a week, 10 face-to-face appointments a week, following up on 10 referrals from recruiters a week, 1 networking event a month, or maybe 2 or whatever. By the way, following up on leads and networking events, I'd say those are the 2 probably strongest performance driving. Well, the face-to-face meetings obviously very strong as well. But in terms of like new business, following up on those referrals and whatnot. So in this example, and you can have, I used to never, I know I'm on Facebook and I know I'm being, but I used to always like one plan, so, I've kind of gotten away from the one plan thing. So you can have different levels of plans where maybe you bring a new person on and that new person for 1.5 years or 2 years has an activity commission, has an activity bonus aspect to their comp plan. And then after they hit a certain level, then that goes away. Maybe something else pops in, or you use those dollars for something else. But in this example here, okay, you've got these activities that you're trying now, lead, not lag, lead, performance driving. This is what we know, like brings clients in the door, closes deals, all that good stuff. And then you just set the targets. You say, in this example, again, this could be as low as $500. Again, it just depends on whatever. Hey, if you just aggregate. So maybe you've got, ideally 3. You don't want more. I just kind of threw those up there. But 3, maybe performance driving. You just aggregate those 3 together at the end of the month. Oh, Tom hit 100% on one, 80% on another, 90 on another. So his average is 90%. So, he gets, 90% of, 90% of his $2,000 payout or whatever. It's obviously if they're below 60%, they're looking for a new job. Now, okay. So real quick, you got a new employee on board. You've got somebody that, was doing okay, a solid B player that now has slipped. What the activity bonus does is it shines a flashlight to say to that new excited sales rep, hey, these are the most important things you need to do day in and day out to succeed. So that's the idea. This, frankly, guys, this 2,500, it's just like, track activity, the sales, I get so much grief from the sales managers. We implement this in companies, and sales reps email me back 3 months later. Tom, thank you so much. Yeah, I love the new comp plan, on and on and on. Your job, what? Management's job, get people to do what they need to do day in and day out in order to succeed. And so the comp plan, so an activity-based comp plan. Now, if you go to my friends at the Gallup poll, Dr. Clifton and company and all that stuff, they talk about outcomes. And this, I will tell you, like nobody in the staffing industry does this, which is a huge, huge mistake. Nobody commissions on good, solid outcomes. Well, what are the outcomes? The outcomes are client satisfaction, client retention, client repeat orders, client penetration, client referrals. So you've got a senior sales executive, maybe that person is doing like whatever. Maybe there's another $250,000, but like that's another big thing to think about is rewarding on the ultimate outcomes of the business strategy to your senior level executives, senior level reps and recruiters and whatnot. So maybe an activity bonus for the newbies, and maybe an outcome bonus for your senior level folks and whatnot. Quarterly bonus. Oh my gosh, I love this. Like, this is such a great idea. I mean, I really should do some more writing about commission plans and all that stuff. Why don't every rep and recruiter, they're at a different point in their life cycle, correct? Every single one is at a different point in their life cycle. Even people that have been with you for 10, 12, 15 years that are lifelong recruiters or whatnot, they go through cycles. We all go through cycles. Hey, welcome to the human race, you know? So why not make a part of their commission plan that's specific to their book, specific to their particular? So for example, maybe you've got a sales rep that has a few large accounts that's not fully penetrating these accounts. Well, oh, let's have a quarterly bonus. Like you get a $2,500 quarterly bonus if you've got 3 new hiring managers in three of your 2 key accounts that we are doing business with. For example, another example might be you've got a new person, and hey, you're going to pay them $1,000 bonus if they get 20 if they talk to 20 hiring managers each month for 3 months in a row and talk to, and they're emailing back and forth or whatnot. So the thing here is individualize the commission structure so that you can tweak it to each individual that you have on the book. Okay, so annual bonus. So we talked about the salaries, gross profit, activity, annual bonus. So I'm not and not just old Tom Kosnick here with the gray beard and all, but a lot of the compensation pundits, they'll say they're not a big advocate of like annual bonuses, and the reason why is that they would say that nobody looks at it until after Thanksgiving, first off. And so they would say, hey, if you're going to allocate dollars to an annual bonus, gosh, that's like 1 time a year, versus quarterly, 4 times a year, versus monthly, 12 times a year, where you're using that sales lever to motivate behavior. So, I'm not a terrible advocate of the annual bonus, but anyway, I do have clients that have annual bonuses. So they offer, for example, maybe they offer a flat bonus of 10 grand for a sales rep or a recruiter that exceeds, $500,000 of annual gross profit production. Another way to do it is maybe 2% of the reps or the recruiters production. So maybe if I do $600,000, I get a $12,000 check at the end of the year, something like that. So it's like I say, it's more so. I guess this particular reward here is more so for the high performers and whatnot. These annual bonuses and whatnot. Oh my gosh, President's Club. You will not. I'm in Philadelphia for the American Staffing Association. Whatever, there's like 100 business owners, staffing companies, sales organizations in the room. I'm talking about compensation. And I said, hey, how many people in the room have a President's Club? Not one person raised their hand. I'm thinking, oh my God, either these guys are really cheap or their operating expenses are really high, or their taxes are really high, and they don't want to dish out. Oh my gosh, guys, if you don't have a President's Club, get a President's Club in place. So whatever you want to call this, high performance club, President's Club, whatever, have it in place. The 2 things culturally, well, first off, you're rewarding high performers, right? So any kind of a President's Club where you go away on a trip, you don't have to be a big company to do this. I've got clients that are 5 million in revenue that are doing this stuff. But anyway, you reward the high performers, and it also, like if you've got B players that are promising, late bloomers, we've all had late bloomers, right? People that for like 3 years, 5 years, whatever, maybe it was somebody starting a family, maybe somebody, came on and they were a solid B player, but they're, had something with their parents, or, that another part of our job as managers, find out what's going on in our employees' lives and all that good stuff. But you're making money off of them. They're a solid B player, but that they got it in them to be an A player. So we all have, but it really entices, it's a reward that entices those B players to, move up into that A category. And here is the thing, is that really a president's club is so much more about building a culture for high performers, to attract high performers. And so, so for example, a weekend trip to Mexico, for the employees that book more than half a million gross profit production. Now I know, and somebody's probably already asked the question, Tom, can we just give them cash? No, you don't want to give them cash. They either go on a trip or they don't go on a trip. They forfeit it.
Right.
Why? Because the President's Club is about getting your high performers together to bond, to build culture. Man, this is a great place. Venkat, this is a great place to work. I love it. My wife loves it. I can't wait to go to where next year? We'll go to British Columbia, Vancouver Island or something. Anyway, so typically I see like the 500,000 mark. Typically I see the 500,000 mark as the level. Some companies have it as high as 600,000, but I don't see it for anything like that. And here's another thing, so if you allow spouses, like I've got clients that say, hey, yeah, bring the spouse along and ... But if you have the spouses, come along, maybe you do a little bit, of an extended, or maybe you do like Thursday, Friday, with the team itself, and then the spouses come in on Friday night. But you definitely want to have some time alone, where the high performers, you and the high performers are like together, and you're talking about all kinds of great stuff and building bonds and whatnot. So, President's Club. So, gosh, we talked about, I feel like, yeah, anyway, you guys are probably like drinking from a fire hose right now. But anyway, we talked about economic models. Well, first off, we talked about trends, the economic models, and then comp plans with salaries and activities and outcomes and gross profit and quarterlies. Yeah, that's definitely a big takeaway. Annuals and President's Club and all that one. So just some final tips and thoughts here. Manage to manage towards a 50-50 ratio. So I do by the way, there was that one trend there that I mentioned, the very last one about young people coming out of college and the younger folks that, hey, they're more attracted to, I've got clients that are losing. God bless you if you're in San Francisco, because Google and Amazon are going to steal your recruiters, regardless of what you pay them. I don't know how anybody, successfully has a staffing company out there. But and my friends over at I do work with folks at Gallup and a couple of organizations that were spinoffs from Gallup. So they say that there are, that whole thing about that there are persons that are coming out of college that are that have all the personality characteristic traits, the hardcore personality characteristic traits, that want to make a lot of money, that would be attracted to 50-50. I just think you gotta kiss a lot more frogs. You just gotta you have to get it. You have to have a better recruiting engine and whatnot. But ideally solid B, A- players shoot for a ratio of 50-50, right? So that if they're making an 80K base, if they're solid B, A-, they're making $150,000 a year. And again, yeah. So, keep the comp plan simple in its understanding. There is an art to putting a good comp plan together. People want to see the money first. It's just like, so when we help companies put comp plans together, it's like, hey, here's the objective. Here's how you get paid. Clarification. What does it mean to you at these different levels? I go through all that stuff. We articulate it. I mean, it ends up being a 12-page document, but even though it's a 12-page document, it's very easy to understand. I mean, people know where their money is coming from. That's the key. And again, the comp seminars and people I've talked to about is like, yeah, people want to know where the, but anyway, keep it simple and it's understanding. I mentioned at the beginning of the call here that that I had that I do this peer roundtable, and I had a guy show up for the first time, and he brought his, he brings his compensation plan and he hands it out. So of course we end that day, everybody leaves, and his comp plan is all over the table, and he's like, like nobody took my comp plan. It was like, I said, it's probably, so, hey Joe, it's probably not all that great. So tweak your compensation plan annually. That's another thing. So what happens is that if I get called from people, oh Tom, we haven't changed our I shouldn't be laughing here, but we haven't changed our comp plan in 20 years. And I'm like, you haven't done what? You haven't changed your comp plan in 20 years? Like, oh my Lord. God, like your clients change every year. Your internal expenses change every year. Margin pressure changes every year. Your client mix changes every year. Why in God's name would you not tweak your comp plan every year? I mean, this is just like this is just being a good steward of the business. Now, why tweak? Now, I'm not saying overhaul. Tweak, a little turn. That's all you got to do every year, because the first year you do it, everybody's going to be, moaning and groaning and acting like they're going to storm the Bastille. The second year, there's just going to be a couple moans and groans. By the third year, people are going to come to you after Thanksgiving and say, "Hey, Venkat, when are we going to get what the new plan is going to look like this year?
Right.
What are going to be the changes?"
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is change a comp plan when you haven't changed it for 20 years. My God, that guy'd be looking for a whole new staff. Anyway, this is a huge takeaway for all those on the call. Just figure out how to reward the performance drivers. I am honest when I'm saying that of the hundreds of comp plans, most of them are just not engaging. They're not boring. Like, who in their right mind would be attracted to a plan like this? It's like, reward the performance. Just figure out what they are and figure out a way to reward them. This is like human behavior here. Pay commissions monthly. Oh my gosh. I picked up a client, like these guys are 75 million in revenue. It was a professional staffing company, 75 million in revenue. The compensation was not individual based. So it was this team based commission structure, and they paid once a quarter. I was like, right. What salesperson would work? What's smart? What smart salesperson or recruiter would stay in that environment? So it's like, so then of course I'm there with the C-suite, and I asked the C-suite, like, hey, like we're at the big board meeting, and like, what, like, hey, help me understand, why are you paying commissions? I wasn't laughing, I was like really serious. I had a tie on and everything. Why are you paying commissions once a quarter? And the CFO says, well, I just don't like calculating commissions on a monthly basis. Oh my Lord. The closer the reward is to the behavior, the more effective it is. Take it to the bank. The closer the reward is to the behavior, the more effective it is. And here's the other thing. This is called the Hawthorne effect, that if you don't tweak that plan, that what happens is that we get comfortable with the plan, and then it moves into a like a forgottenness kind of a thing. And so like we have to do that with ourselves, with our brains, right? We got to drive to work differently, listen to a different radio station, whatever. And that just kind of like jogs your brain but anyway, use multiple sales levers. That's another big thing. Get your folks loaded in this presentation here. Have your managers and your employees sign the compensation plan. So this is really key. There's a psychological component to an employee and a manager or an employee in an organization, so that when your salespersons and recruiters literally like sign their plan, that there's a psychological commitment that like in the signing of it, it's as if they're making a psychological commitment. And so have them sign the plan. Gosh, in 26 years, Venkat, only one time have I seen a compensation plan where there was a confidentiality statement in the plan itself. And like one time. Oh my gosh. And let me tell you, those guys were smart guys, man. They knew how to do comp plans and all that good stuff. Please have a confidentiality statement in your comp plan. I mean, this is a no-brainer. And then my favorite tip to give. The best form of recognition is listening. It just which happens to cost the company nothing. So managers, I should have said right at the beginning of the presentation there too that compensation is really one of the many variables that encourages performance and increases retention and increases engagement. So like I know a lot of firms on the call, they run out and they get, fancy sales training and all that stuff, which I'm all for, good solid sales training. But your manager is the key variable to profitability within your organization. So so if you're going to invest in training, management training for your managers is top of the list, way top of the list. People leave managers, they don't leave companies. So the whole thing with compensation, the whole concept of compensation, and I didn't have any slides on this, which is another huge mistake most of my clients make, is the total compensation is your base pay, all the commission, sales levers, the benefits, any 401k, like all that stuff, that should be in the comp document. So just Google what does total compensation mean? Like it includes all those things. And so what the HR professionals have found is, again, it's like this is me putting my company's best foot forward to a potential employee, right? And so like if I've got a comp plan that's like coming off the shelf, like, great. But what I was saying is that hiring to the right profile. So if you don't know how to hire the right profile, personality profile, which Venkat, that's a whole nother webinar. If you're not adequately training, so hiring to the right profile, knowing how to do that, using personality profiles, using cultural assessment. If you're not training week in and week out, by the way, training, we talked about companies only using 20% of their database. Oh my Lord. I mean, yeah, database training every week. But anyway, training every week, and then management, that you don't have good solid management. Those are like the A1, A2, A3 kind of thing. And then you get into B1, 2, and 3, and that is the environment conducive? It's all those Gallup questions. Is the environment encouraging of performance? Do they have computers and laptops that work? And I had a client that was an IT staffing business, and the owner of the business, he's like, his email's not working, and he says, "Hey, email me. I'm going to send you my Yahoo."
Yahoo account.
My Yahoo account. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, you're an IT staffing company and you have clients that are emailing you at your Yahoo. Like, oh my Lord, neon flashing sign, I'm an idiot. Don't do business with me. It's the same thing with your internal employees. If you don't have state of the art, like the work environment, recruiters would do. I've walked another crazy story. Walked into a business and this guy had these, like, all the recruiters were working on these tiny little laptops, and he's like, yeah, they can take their laptops home. And I'm like, why are these recruiters not have two big screens and a desk setup that rises and comes back down so they can, sit on a ball or dance while they're recruiting? I'm like, oh my Lord, cheap. What's it cost? Cheap. But anyway, So then you get into those other variables. Is a work environment? Do they have technology that works? Are you? Those are the other variables that encourage and engage. And so, but and compensation is in there as well. So a lot of variables to consider when you're thinking about productivity and encouraging productivity and whatnot. But so I said a lot. Do we?
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for all great information. I think I've learned so much, so many new things today. But again, thank you for all the great insights that you've given us. I know we have another few minutes left, but I wanted to make sure we cover a few questions that we have today. So I'm going to go through these questions, and then you can answer them as well. So the first question I have here is, how does compensation vary between a startup to an early stage to a growing to a mature company?
How does comp change? How does it differ for a startup?
Yes. How does the compensation vary between a startup to an early stage to a growing to a mature company?
Hey, look, like, so a startup, you cannot afford, you've got to hire experience, right? So if you're in a startup phase, you can't go hire newbies like right out of school or second job out of college. So you have to hire experienced people. So the number one, so cash flow. You got to figure out, and I think you've got a lot of clients that are IT staffing companies. So figure whatever, $500,000, $750,000 or whatever, and but what you'll need to do is you have to figure your comp where you're gonna have to pay a higher base salary because you got to bring somebody on board. You might have some of those same levers that I talked about would be the same in a typical company, but it's just going to take you longer before you hit the break even because you've got to hire people with experience and whatnot. And you might add some things in a commission where sort of like a delayed or a deferred component to it, meaning like, okay, we're at a startup, but when we hit 3 million in revenue, you're going to get a $100,000 bonus or something like that for sticking with us. So you may be able to find some folks that, again, I get called from guys that are like two guys that worked at, one of the big companies. Hey, we're starting a company. And so that they, if they pull some people with them that have faith in them, then you could add that kind of a component into it with a startup.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And I think the next question I have here is, what about other types of monthly contests to help build sales pipeline for sales teams? Like 3 net new starts, you receive a financial award. I think there's a comment here is, President's Club, in my opinion, only works when companies have revenue of above $40 million. Costs in San Francisco Bay Area are already very high to do business.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, I didn't talk about contests. I'm a big fan of the contests. A lot of clients of mine use them, and so again, that's just what is the business trying to accomplish? So if the business is trying to accomplish new hiring managers in the database, new accounts, account penetration, think on the there might be some things on the fulfillment side of it. But anyway, you have those. You can do those contests either monthly or quarterly. And I've had clients. This is kind of silly. I've had clients that had Venkat contests where the winning was 2 free movie tickets.
Right. Okay.
To King Kong and Godzilla, and reps are fighting each other for the 2 free.
All right.
See, it's like if you're hiring competitive people, they don't care. They just they want to get in the mix of it. No, let me get in the ring. But again, that's another. We didn't even talk about the non-financial. There's tons of like non-financial stuff you can do that is just. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, contests are another thing. Contests, by the way, those would be outside of your commission structure. So like, because those are like really fluid. Those are very, so that's just like over the top. I mean, that would not be in a comp document or anything like that. But yeah, they work. A lot of clients of mine use them, and yeah. So
perfect. Good. I think I have four more questions. I'm just going to make sure we go through them. I think the next question I have is: do you think the commission should be from $1 or after a portion of their salary is covered?
Yeah, another trend I'm starting to see. So most of the companies out there pay on first dollar in, but another trend that I'm starting to see is like a $5,000 threshold. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the big national IT just changed their plan to have a threshold in there. So like I tend to be because I want that net income. I'm like, and the economic model and all that good stuff. But um, I'm starting to see a trend where they're putting a threshold in place, and it's like a 5K threshold. So first 5K, that pays for this, that, and that, and then after 5K, then you start getting paid on commissions. And look, if you're in IT or higher in accounting and finance or whatever, I mean, it's a couple people, 3 people on billing or something like that.
Right.
So.
Perfect. I think the next question I have is, should recruiters and sales cost us 35% of their gross profit?
Say again.
Should the recruiters and sales cost us 35% of their gross profit? I think of the gross
Yes.
profit we make, 35%. Is that?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 35 to 40%. Like nobody's, very few companies are running like 100%. So, and a lot of companies have got people that are new, that are ramping up. And so it's probably going to be, it's probably going to be closer to 40% of the gross profit of the business unit.
Right.
Just refer back to those economic models.
I think the next question I have is, what are your thoughts about recruiters and salespeople working 100% remote?
Hey, wow, great question. That's a whole nother webinar. So I've done my clients have asked me to do a bunch of research on this. So the organizational development pundits are saying that it's going to fall into like an 80-20, 80% in the office, 20% remote. We'll eventually get there. I mean, will we get there this year? Who knows? I can't tell you. I'm in Chicago. There's a lot of more people on a train and all that other good stuff. But look, the companies that are there, and by the way, there's a lot of research about sales organizations that were 100% remote, sales teams that were 100% remote, that were competing against sales teams that were meeting in the office and whatnot. And the people that were meeting in the office, they outperformed double digits, outperformed the sales teams that were 100% remote. So it is, I think, big mistake to say, hey, we're going to go remote for like whatever. So much gets done. And first off, like, hey, who wants to be a recruiter or a salesperson in this industry?
Right.
They're tough jobs, right?
Yes.
Tough jobs to begin with. So it's, anyway, so that's what I'm saying.
I think I have 2 more questions before we can end this. I think the next question I have is, how do we manage to retain a highly paid professional? This person is already getting good offers from company and is getting better options out in the market. Any
Yeah.
suggestions on how to retain with compensation or commissions?
Yeah, sure. You can do a couple of things. You can do like a deferred comp. And so deferred, so you take a certain percentage of the net income, maybe 2% of the net income number, whatever that is, 5%, whatever. It goes into a deferred kitty, which goes into an investment vehicle, and then it starts paying out 3 years later. So basically, that's sort of like a profit sharing kind of thing. So for high performers, key executives, high performers, you can have a deferred commission structure. You can also, again, find out what the economic the motivators are for that individual. You can do insurance policies where it's part of their retirement package. So there are some things like that, perks and things like that. But you got to sit down, find out that employees what their economic goals are and whatnot, and then why not? Why not pay them profit sharing or something like that if they're a key performer? Why lose them?
Sure. Yeah. I think the next question I had here is, salary levels based on geography does this still make sense in a world where remote work has become ever popular and likely not going away?
Well, remote work is here to stay, right? But is it going to be 100% remote work? You know, so yeah, you could gosh, I mean, uh, uh, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to find somebody in in Mobile, Alabama, that's going to sell, in Los Angeles, I mean, if you can make that business model work, fantastic. It's you're just going to have to try, but yeah, I mean, so and in that case, you would want to go, what, again, I'm in Chicago here. So I did have a client that, went down to Michigan City, Indiana, which is right just south of Lake Michigan. And they set up like a call center or something like that. And they were paying, it was an IT staffing firm, and they were paying whatever, an hourly wage. And I don't know how many people they had in there, but anyway.
Good. And next question, I think that's the last question I have here is, how do you replicate a president's club for small organizations that have 3 to 5 reps?
How do you make it work?
How do you replicate a president's club for small organizations that just have 3 or 5 reps?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, I've got clients that have, but that's like everybody, right? So you would include your senior level recruiters, your senior level sales reps, and maybe it's you got a couple of options. One, you got to think through. So you might have like an all corporate goal. Hey, so if we hit 12 million in revenue, we're all going to go to Vegas for a weekend. Maybe it's not Mexico, and I can pay for the employee, but I can't pay for the spouse's ticket and all that stuff. So there are other ways that you can. So instead of doing like maybe a president's club, doing a corporate, overall corporate, where everybody goes. And by the way, I mean, I've got a client that's 65 million in revenue, and if they hit their annual goal, Venkat, they take the whole company to Mexico. 65 million in revenue. And like the CFO is like, people are crazy about that trip. It's
right. Yes.
So anyway.
Good.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much all we had, Tom. Again, a big thank you for walking us through amazing insights. There's a lot of things I learned today, and I'm sure a lot of our attendees have also learned a lot of new things. Again, we thank you for taking time to talk to us.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
I look forward to talking to you more, and then we'll discuss more soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.